Goodness. Good morning, my friends. So much has transpired within the last couple of weeks in this world. But what it all boils down to is good versus evil. I have heard so many things in regards to this George Floyd situation, ad nauseum, the protests, the rioting, the mayhem. The most frustrating thing to me with this whole movement is that they proclaim to care about black lives. And then you go and you look at all the black businesses that was destroyed during these riots. And that should tell anybody that this has nothing to do with black lives. And it's so irritating to me to hear people say over and over and over again, they killing us. No, as a black person in a black community, we are killing us more than the so-called police are killing us. And it's a shame. You know, people abort their babies in the black community crying out about Black Lives Matter. What about them black babies you are aborting? And another thing that I was hearing is that, you know, these things come in cycles. You know, the rise and fall of nations. But in regards to a biblical perspective, what if this is the last fall? What if this is the end of all things? You know, people say, oh, stay hopeful, we're going to come out of this. What if this is the situation that will take us into the darkest of times, that will bring the Lord Jesus Christ back to this earth to return or to take his children home? Those of us who profess to be sojourners in this earth, who are tired of this wickedness. Wickedness has no color. You know, it's just unfortunate that people only want to look at certain things. You know, people need to start taking responsibility for their actions. Stop living a life of crime. If you are so terrified of being killed by police, stop your criminal behavior. Live the life of a law-abiding citizen. But anyway, back to this cycle of evil that seems to take place in nations. You know, I want to take you back in time to the French Revolution. A lot of things are similar as to what is taking place in our world. As I stated before, I've seen a video back, well, it wasn't back in 1984, but the video was from 1984 with ex-KGB agent Yuri Beznikov, I believe that was his name. And he talks about destroying a nation to change a capitalistic society into a Marxist nation. Demoralization, destabilization, crisis, acclimatization. You know, we have been demoralized. We are being destabilized as we speak. You know, the government educational system, they're indoctrinating our kids. And now that I hear that they have a whole curriculum in regards to this Black Lives Matter, to raise your kids to hate the law and order, to hate the police. This just is not right, people. All police are not bad. See, this is what happens. They group everybody into one lump sum. We don't like it as black people to be stereotyped, so they turn around and they stereotype the police. As their movement states, they want to defund the police. Who's going to be hurt the most when the police are defunded? The black community. If already in Chicago over 200 and something murders has already taken place within the black community over the weekend, 18 already murdered. Who are going to hurt the worst if there are no police? Old Mrs. Johnson down the street who walks to the local market will not be able to do so anymore. She will be mugged repeatedly, beat even killed. No one will be able to come to her rescue because there will be no one to call if there is no police. The world will descend into chaos, and this is what the devil wants. This is good versus evil, lawlessness versus those who want to respect the law, abide by the law. Yes, we have bad apples in every community, in every organization. You see in the corporate world, people doing terrible criminal behavior. You see in the police department, like Derek Chauvin, people that should never have been on police force. And some are still there, they just haven't been found out yet. You know, but you can go through those police records and see all the complaints. Maybe they should be removed because they don't have the mentality to be a police officer. But there are a lot of good police officers within the police department. And to simply defund it would be chaos within the entire United States. You know, we will have to take the law into our own hands. So that throws that whole, you know how the left love to come out every time a shooting to deny gun rights? Well, you see how the gun shops, the sales are just spiking. Because we know as law-abiding citizens that we have to take the law in our own hands if the police are now fearful to come in to save us. You know, they are the first responders. If there is no first responders to call, guess what? It's left to us to defend our life, our property, our families. This is not where we want to go. But when you look at Bible prophecy, you know that things are going to get to the point where the Lord has to cut it short because he says the very elect would not be saved. My people, please wake up and decide. Because, you know, everybody is going to die. We are mortal. But you want that life, that immortal life. You know, we're not living down here on this simple earth. We don't know what living is. We think we're living. No, we're not living down here. Every day for me is just so frustrating. The more I listen, sometimes I just have to tune out for a day because it's so frustrating. And the things that are so twisted in the black community. You know, everybody up in arms, not everybody. Some people within the black community, like I stated before, that old proverb, when you throw a rock into a pack of dogs, that one that barks the loudest is the one that got hits. In regards to Candace Owens' statement. We always uplift the criminal and make them martyrs. You know, but when you're doing the right thing, nobody has nothing to say. Nobody's there to congratulate you. But anyway, let's get back to what took place in history during the French Revolution. Bear with me because I'm going to read an excerpt from Sir Walter Scott in regards to the French Revolution. I just want you to hear some of the striking similarities. It says, during the revolution in 1793, the world for the first time heard an assembly of men, born and educated in civilization and assuming the right to govern one of the finest of the European nations, uplift their united voice to deny the most solemn truth which man's soul receives, and renounce unanimously the belief and worship of a deity. France is the only nation in the world concerning which the authentic record survives, that as a nation she lifted her hand in open rebellion against the author of the universe. Plenty of blasphemers, plenty of infidels there have been, and still continue to be, in England, Germany, Spain, elsewhere, but France stands apart in the world's history as the single state which by the decree of her legislative assembly pronounced that there was no God, and of which the entire population of the capital and a vast majority elsewhere, women as well as men, danced and sang with joy in accepting the announcement. France presented also the characteristic which especially distinguished Sodom. During the revolution, there was manifest a state of moral debasement and corruption similar to that which brought destruction upon the cities of the plain. And the historian presents together the atheism and the licentiousness of France as given in the prophecy. Intimately connected with these laws affecting religion was that which reduced the union of marriage, the most sacred engagement which human beings can form, and the permanence of which leads most strongly to the consolidation of society, to the state of a mere civil contract of a transitory character which any two persons might engage in and cast loose at pleasure. If fiends had set themselves to work to discover a mode of most effectually destroying whatever is venerable, graceful, or permanent in domestic life, and of obtaining at the same time an assurance that generation to another, they could not have invented a more effectual plan than the degradation of marriage. Sophie Arnault, that's page 271, actress, famous for the witty things she said, described the Republican marriage as the sacrament of adultery, where also our Lord was crucified. This specification of the prophecy was also fulfilled by France. In no land had the spirit of enmity against Christ been more strikingly displayed. In no country had the truth encountered more bitter and cruel opposition. And the persecution which France had visited upon the confessors of the gospel, she had crucified Christ in person, his disciples. Oh, my friends, as these lawless people cry out, and you know what else was interesting I heard today? That it is women who are leading these movements. Black Lives Matter, the anarchists, Antifa, these feminist women. Oh my goodness. And have you seen the people kneeling before these people, confessing their white privilege? I even seen a little white girl with a sign that her parents had put on the web with an arrow pointing up saying privilege, hashtag Black Lives Matters. Oh my goodness. The idea of systematic racism. If there was such a thing, do you think so many people within the black community would be as successful as they are today? We will be blocked from every avenue that will give us an opportunity for upliftment. Look at all the millionaires that has been made on YouTube. Look at all the educated people, black people that have come out of colleges. If we have been subjected to systematic racism, these people would not exist. After all, 4 years ago, we had a black president. If there was systematic racism, there would not have been a black face in the Oval Office that held the highest office of the land. People need to think. Stop allowing yourselves to be brainwashed by these movements. Use your mind and think. Where are these people leading you? Yes, this is a just cause in regards to the unlawful taking of a life in which the manner that it was taken, that should have never have happened. That undescribable event that has taken place where the man refused to get off the complaints of another man's neck as he cried out and said he can't breathe. The sinful condition of the heart. See, they want to put in place all these other things, but that is not going to cure the ills of the world. Only Jesus can do that. And people do not want to hear what I'm saying in regards to the gospel. And this is where the line of distinction is drawn. The line between good and evil. My people, you better wake up. And these young black people that are being brainwashed, who have not been raised in the church. See, there's a whole generation of black people, kids having kids, who are not being raised in the church. Now, if you want to talk about systematic racism, you need to go back to the Democratic Party. All these incentivizing plans that they put in place, you know, for women having these kids out of wedlocks, fatherless homes, these young men being raised by their mothers who do not have that father figure in their life, that goes to the street and learn all this criminal behavior and think it's cool, you know, as they listen to these rappers state about selling drugs, you know, being a kingpin, having trap houses and all these different things. You know, this is what's taking the place of God. And what's the end result? Another dead black life. We have to do better within the black community. And the answers that this movement is putting forth is not going to help, but only harm. So I implore you to use your mind and think. And if you have not considered your spiritual well-being after this world is over, I suggest you do. Because as we see these things take place in the world, time is drawing to a close. Every time I come on this video, I am going to mention that, because it is getting more and more and more evident that it is high time to awake out of sleep. Look up, because your redemption draweth nigh. Put off the works of darkness. You know, go to the light. These people are of the devil, their father. All this rioting, looting, mayhem, killing people, you know, it's a shame. They don't care about lives, you know, and it's racist to say that all lives matter, but I'm sorry, in God's eyes, we are all his children. And to him, all lives matter. And for the children of God that follow Jesus, that try to take that walk and pick up their cross and follow him, all lives matter to them. You know, it's just a travesty that we have been allowing and not saying nothing about the continual genocide within the black community. Why don't they march like this, you know, every year, with all these thousands and hundreds of lives that's being taken every year by the hands of a black man? That's something to think about. And until the next time, I will see you on the next one.
Wake up! Wake up! Wake up! Wake up! Wake up!